ॐ गं गणपतये नमः।
Okay, what do we say about La Traviata from San Diego Opera, April 22nd, 2017? We, Ganesh and I, believe it was solid. It was a good performance. It was a satisfying night of theater in that it gave everyone the opportunity to have an opinion on it. And some opinions have more experience than other opinions, and the more experienced opinions had a different opinion than the less experienced opinions. And I think that says it all, doesn't it? I think that's pretty clear. The production was set in the 1920s, which actually was neither here nor there. So at the top of the party scene, which would be the finale of Act 2, we've got Charleston going. Okay, great. It's fun. But we could have had, how does the music go? Well, that's supposed to be Spanish dancing, and we had more of an Egyptian type ballet, which was pretty compelling for me. I enjoyed that. But you know, I shouldn't be talking about the ballet when we're talking about just one scene in a substantial opera. So I won't talk about him. I will talk about Stephen Powell. Stephen Powell was tremendous. He was Rex Tremende. He was Immenso Tha. He was Dieci Miliani. He was it. He was an experienced, seasoned opera singer. He's been appearing at San Diego Opera, according to his bio here, since 1997. That's a solid 20 years. He's out there fighting the operatic war, day in, day out, night, day, morning, noon, afternoon, evening, all hours of the day, fighting the fight for opera. 20 years, killing it, crushing it. And that's what he did as Germont in this Traviata. He brought all of that game that he's developed just by doing the activity of being an opera singer. He brought that game to this role, and it was a fantastic, phenomenal, any other F word you want to think of, great performance. Although phenomenal, yeah. Why do I always do that? Stop doing that. So Stephen Powell crushed it. I even gave him a bravo, out loud, bravo, one of those, because it was awesome. It was great. Violetta Corinne Winters was solid, good. She's going to grow into this role. I'm not sure what her experience in opera singing is. It's certainly not the same as Stephen Powell's. She's not been doing it for 20 years. That seems obvious just based on her picture, which is quite nice. And her appearance on stage, she's just not that mature artist. So she will grow in this role, and she made some choices, or was given these choices maybe by the director. I'm not sure how that went down. You never know unless you're in the room, and I was not in the room. And even if I was in the room, I would not tell you, because me being in the room, unless I was in the room as a journalist or a reporter, means I can't say anything about what goes on in the room. It's an unwritten ethic that I broke once, and I'll never make that mistake again. But what I said was true. All right, so don't get it twisted. What I said was true, but I had access to information as a chorister, not as a reporter. But I wrote about it as a reporter, even though I'm not a reporter. I'm an apologist for classical music. I'm trying to get people into classical music and opera, not away from it. So I thought telling the truth was the way we did things, but oh no, that's not how we do things. We do not tell the truth. And until opera and classical music start telling the truth, it's going to be rough. I don't know why the truth isn't good enough. Like, tell us the truth. Let us know the truth about how difficult it is to produce this stuff. No one understands unless you've done it. It's like that with everything. No one understands how difficult it is to golf your ball around a course until you try to golf your ball around a course. No one understands how difficult it is to jump a horse over an equestrian horse jump, whatever they're called, until you've done that. I've never done that, but I'm guessing it's pretty difficult to do. Nobody knows how difficult it is to run a marathon until you run a marathon. And nobody knows how difficult it is to put on opera until you put on opera. However, the difficulties need to be expressed to the general public so that they have some context for the magnificent thing that is happening in front of them. And that rant is brought on by saying, I don't know whose choice the first act was dramatically, if it was Corinne Winter's choice or Marta Domingo's choice, but the character of Violetta in the first scene was not quite the life of the party. She was either being chic and aloof in a 20s way, which was probably something, I'm guessing, or she was preoccupied with her condition and was at a party that she didn't really want to be at. And that's fair as well. It just doesn't give us as much obvious upfront. I mean, that's a very subtle type of dramatic choice to make, and I don't fault it at all. I'm just saying that it doesn't give us as much travel room to the end of the opera if she's already kind of morose and internal, like she's not able to, it's sparkly, it's champagne, and then she's dead. That's the that's the trajectory for Violetta. Happy, 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 Brindisi, Libiamo, and then dead. So the choice I respect. It just was not a normal choice. And there were a couple of not normal choices in this. The one that stood out the most to me, so that was one, and that was, I'm not sure how much that came across, but the one that really stood out to me was in the second act finale, because there are 3 acts in La Traviata, not 4. The program says 4. This thing called the vocal score says 3. And I know this is Schirmer, but trust me, the Ricordi also says 3. I have the Schirmer because I'm a very, very nice and generous person, and I gave my Ricordi to someone who was wanting a Ricordi score because I had the Schirmer already. So that was just me being nice. So, yes, I understand Ricordi. When you're doing Verdi, you want Ricordi. I get it. 3 acts, not 4. That's not a big deal. Why were you making that a big deal? Because it's just what it is. We're going back to telling the truth, aren't we? There are 3 acts in the opera. Why would you say there are 4? Do you see what I'm getting at? This habit of not letting us know the truth about what opera is and how difficult it is, and actually what it does for us as an audience and as participants in the experience. So, second act finale. After Alfredo has thrown his money, boom! Take that. He's yelled at her in front of everyone. Tutto è me! They all come in. Questa donna conoscete, and he's being so mean and vicious because he feels like he's been betrayed, and maybe he's a Scorpio in his love sign, and that's what I am. I've been told, and so I very much would have made the same choice that Alfredo did. I totally would have done that. In his situation. In fact, to a lesser degree, I probably have done that on a couple occasions with a couple different people who, do I need to say they shall not be named? Well, they won't be named. And I did apologize. I think. Did I? Okay. So he's thrown the money, and then the scene is usually about Violetta's music as she's lying on the ground. She's kind of fainted or just the life has gone out of her body at this horrific deed that Alfredo has played on her. And then she's prone and she sings the concertate, and she's usually downstage center, and it's about her. And then Alfredo is off to the side singing his thing, and Dramont is off to the side singing his thing, and then the chorus is the background against which these lines of music come out. So Alfredo was downstage left and had a spotlight on him. Violetta was upstage in the middle, and after she gathered herself, she just stood there and she just sang almost as if she was part of the background, while Germont, both Germonts, Alfredo and Giorgio, were more downstage. So Alfredo, here's the stage. Alfredo here, his father here, Violetta here, up on the gambling table, but here next to the doctor, and it just struck me as if Marta Domingo was trying to bring out the anguish of Alfredo and his remorse over the injustice and the social, I don't know what you want to call it, demise of Violetta. So that, again, was a different choice. That was kind of a break from tradition. I wouldn't call it controversial at all. It was just, traditionally that scene is about Violetta and her grief instead of about Alfredo and his remorse. So, I, again, respect that choice. I'm not saying it was the wrong choice to make. It was just not the norm. Should I talk about the singing, the ability of the singers themselves? I'm not sure I should. It might help. I spoke with the lady who was seated next to me a little bit about what was going on, and she seemed to appreciate the perspective, the singer's perspective that I had. But I'm not sure everyone would. It might come off as being mean-spirited, but we are talking about the truth a lot. Well, at least I am. Ganesh is always silent. This dude never talks. He doesn't have to. He's a demigod. Okay, I will. Stephen Powell, flawless. Can't say anything about him as Drummond, except that it was wonderful. And I said, bravo, after his Di Provenza. And after Di Provenza. I saved it. I wanted to do it after the duet with Violetta, but I saved it. There was enough clapping at that point, but my God, what a voice. And again, that's the dude you want to hear, is the one who's been doing it for 20 years professionally. He's done with school, he's done with his masters, he's done with his internships and his young artist programs and his blah, 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 and he's been doing it. Okay. Corinne Winters is Violetta. She will grow into the role. I have no concern for her. She was fine. Solid. Everything was there. Just the dramatic choices were just didn't give the characters much travel space. So Jesus Garcia fell victim to the temptress named pushing his voice. And it's a place that every tenor has been. Every tenor has been there. Let me say it again. Every tenor has pushed his voice. It's what we do. It's the most difficult, unnatural voice to produce. And in a role like Alfredo, it walks a really fine line. Man, it's a razor's edge, the whole thing. Range-wise, it's not very rangy. It's not extremely high, but it keeps you passaggio and then out, passaggio and then out, passaggio and then out, but not out. Right? Out would be B flats, but like A natural. Find me a tenor who likes A natural. Not this one. Not any of the ones I've talked to. We don't like A natural. A flat. Oh, B flat. A natural. So that's the A natural's got Jesus Garcia, and it was my heart went out to him. From everything I've heard, he's a wonderful person, and his voice is beautiful, and the quality of it is quite lovely. But in the San Diego Civic Theater, the temptation is to think that you as the singer aren't being heard, because it's such a terrible theater when it comes to sound. I won't get into it, but It is, but it's not changing. It's a consistent phenomenon that singers push on stage at San Diego Opera because the feedback from the house is so poor and they feel like they're not being heard. And of course, they want to be heard. The last thing any singer wants to hear is, well, they had a lovely voice, but I couldn't hear them. No one wants to hear that. It's a play on words, but not intended. So the A naturals got him more than once. And this is an A natural role. I mean, there's a high C optional, which is in the cabaletta to the second act aria of De miei volenti spiriti. But that's not written. It's written on the staff. It's not written as a high C. But you know, what's Pavarotti going to do? Not sing the high C. And so if Pavarotti sings the high C, well, now suddenly all tenors have to think they need to sing the high C. So it was rough for him, and that's just a part of opera. I don't think the show suffered from it. He is probably devastated. The rest of us have gone about our lives, which is the way it's the way things work. He's feeling, and you could tell when he came out for his curtain call, the heartache that he was feeling. And I think most of the audience was there with him, kind of empathizing, not despising, not even sympathizing, but I think people were feeling it with him, that feeling of disappointment. And yet then we've all gone along our merry way. He has been probably obsessing about it because he has to do it again on Tuesday. He certainly doesn't want to repeat that. But the problem is once you start pushing the voice, it's almost impossible to trust it to back off. And so that's going to be his dilemma. I have some friends who, well, I'll just ask the chorus, how things go. I really hope that he's able to back off and sing it more as if he were singing Donizetti instead of, as if he were singing Verismo, which I think is what he was trying to do was, I don't know what he was trying to do. I can't say because I don't know. I didn't talk to him. I didn't say, hey man, what was up with the A naturals? Did they get you? I just know what I heard. And I heard a singer who has a great voice. And I heard a singer who has great musicianship. And his pitch was great. And his acting was pretty good as well. But he couldn't do the acting because he had already in Un Di Felice in the first act had that A flat moment. There's two fucking notes in that aria duet on Croce that can wreck your world as Alfredo for the rest of the night. It's like the whole role hinges on those two A naturals. And if those aren't there, or not that they're not there, if the riddle of the Sphinx, which is those two A flats or A naturals, is not solved, then the acting won't be there because the tenor's going to be nigh unto paranoid about what's going to happen later on in the role. And so I think that's what was affecting his acting a little bit, was that he was having to be so conscious of his singing because what had happened early on. And so the big challenge for him is going to be, will he trust that he can back off or make it a little less manly, which I hate that term, but baritonal is manly and tenoral is considered less manly for some reason. I think it's mainly baritone propaganda. But I think he was trying to make the voice sound richer and deeper. And it did. It certainly did. He accomplished that, but at the expense of maybe being able to really let those high notes ring. In the concertata, in the Act 2 finale, though, he sounded very good. And that's not an easy thing to sing. It does the same thing. It's take da da dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da 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 dee da 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 da. It's very much what the whole role is. Middle voice, A natural. Middle voice, A natural. Middle voice, A natural. And you're like, Verdi, dude, chill. Although it was middle voice G sharp or A flat when he wrote it because of the pitch went up to A440 in the early 20th century. After Verdi wrote his masterpiece. So I'm gonna end it there. That's kind of a downer, but this was a solid production. It, we have peak experiences as people who are involved with going to opera and consuming opera, and we take those peak experiences. I'm making a peak with my hands, and we then applied those peak experiences to the rest of every other opera we're ever going to see, and it's really unfair because to have a Traviata where the Germont is transcendent, and the Violetta is transcendent, and the Alfredo is transcendent, and the director brings it all together, and the conductor digs into the emotion of the orchestra. For the chorus was great in this. You really couldn't have asked for a better sounding chorus. They sounded great. But you need all of those elements to conspire. The stage director to really get into the meat of what is going on with Violetta, her choice to die alone, to not just say I don't love you, to not just hurt Alfredo, but which is painful enough, but then to add to that the specter of dying alone. So the director and the Violetta have to work on that together in a meaningful way, and maybe even consider their own mortality. Which who wants to do that? To make Traviata into the epitome of Traviata, into a peak experience, needs all of these things to line up, and it just isn't going to happen every time, or even most of the time. So this was a solid production. I enjoyed it, and now I'm talking about it. And I've talked to other people about it, and we had a good time talking about it. And that's one of the best things about opera, is you go to the opera, you like some things, you don't like some things, and then you talk. And you go back and forth. Well, I like this. Well, I like this. Well, you're a fucking idiot. Well, you're a fucking idiot. And then it goes from there. You get the idea. And so I do hope that Jesus Garcia is able to bring himself back. I really do. From the bottom of my heart. We want great singers. And he has been a great singer, I'm sure. And it just didn't happen for him on opening night. So that is all. And talk to you later.